Hey guys! Welcome to Hair History of the 1940s. The 1940s ring in the beginning of the real Hollywood glamour. The iconic vintage glamour looks that we know nowadays usually come from the 40s and the 50s. So it all begins in the very beginning of the century, around 1940, 1941, when movie stars start wearing their hair in a new way, something completely different from what was worn before, and that is this new feminine, and let's be honest, very sexy way of wearing the hair. Hair had been very short, pretty stern for a couple of decades, and now this new kind of femininity just blew through fashion like a storm. So in the beginning of the century, of course, women wanted to imitate these movie star hairstyles, and in order to do that, since most hair was still pretty short from the 20s and the 30s, women would wear hairpieces and wigs. As always, this is what women resort to when they can't follow fashion with their own hairs. But this was really just in the beginning of the century, because as we all know, in the 40s something major happened, that is World War II. And for World War II it was just not practical to have long hair. Women needed to work, they took over a lot of the men's jobs while the men were out fighting. So women got their hair short again. Not as short in the 20s, but kind of an in-between length, pretty practical length. Or I'd say about shoulder length or chin length. This was just practical for a busy working woman in this time. Of course, the movie stars still had their big glamorous hair, but the common woman couldn't afford to do that. By 1945 we see this short-lived trend of the top knot. Hair is just pulled up and then worn in either a bunch of curls on top of the head or a kind of swirl, or even the classic French twist. But this is very short-lived, and by 1946 it's already gone. So an interesting development in the 40s as opposed to, say, the 20s and even the 30s a little bit, is that hair was used once again as something that marks a woman's beauty. Hair was worn like a crown, something to accentuate female beauty and not something to just follow trends with. In the 20s, hair was very, very susceptible to trends, and the trends weren't necessarily the most pretty or flattering for women. And now in the 40s, the priority is once again to look as beautiful as possible and not necessarily as trendy as possible. So with that in mind, it's not hard to imagine that the trend was to actually just wear your hair however it looked the most beautiful on you. So a lot was permitted, a lot was permitted. But I'd say in terms of texture, loose waves were definitely the most popular thing back then. And especially where the top of the hair is left pretty much straight and just the ends are curled. So I am wearing a glamorous movie Hollywood inspired hairstyle here, so let me show you how to do this. I'm going to start by making a side parting on one side of my head and separating out one piece of hair from that parting down to my ear. Then I'm going to tease this hair just a little bit on the back just to make sure that it stands up, and I'm going to pull it back and twist it around my head to create this roll. And then I'm going to bring this roll close to my scalp and I'm going to pin it down right there. And I'm going to insert one bobby pin from the front and one from the back to make sure this roll doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, so just separate out a few pieces of hair from the front here, tease them, and make my roll, and pin it down from front and back. So the rest of my hair I'm just going to curl in large curls. So I'm going to use a pretty thick curling iron here. And just take pretty large pieces of hair as well, and I'm going to curl all the hair on my head. So I'm going to give these curls a little while to cool down before brushing them out. And when I do brush them out, I'm going to twirl them around to make them kind of stick together as one big curl on either side. And there is your 1940s hairstyle done. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe for more hair history videos. Next week we are going to do the 50s. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye!